Hey everyone, welcome back to Asturis City in City Skylines. Today's project was rough because this is the first Asturis build that I started after CS2 when I was not exactly sure how to actually approach this series, and during building all of this I changed my plans like 5 times. The result is probably the largest build in the main part of the city. We will truly fill a monstrous footprint today and visually just add so much more to the city center. So what exactly will it be? A huge hospital complex, a couple of tram stops, a cathedral with a plaza, lots of high-density building blocks, and new iconic night lights to add to that already overlit city center. Let's not waste any more time and jump right into it. So this project started with the hospital. Right here I'm just preparing like a palette of all kinds of buildings that I might use for the hospital project. I downloaded some buildings I already had from before, and I knew 100% that I want to use them for some kind of a hospital. So just like with some other projects, I just prepared the palette and then I just started putting the buildings into this area because I really try to use for these kinds of large projects. Obviously, hospital is going to be a very large project. I try to use the very large footprint buildings first because they are obviously going to fill a huge footprint. It's going to be so much easier to then use those as the defining elements of that area and then just figure out the rest later. So that's exactly what I'm doing right here. Even though most of these buildings are hospital buildings, some of them are not, like for example the tower, but I kind of figured that, well, it's supposed to be a futuristic hospital. How am I going to make it into a futuristic looking hospital? So might as well just add some kind of a tower because, you know, towers are cool, and slap some helipads on the top for some kind of futuristic hovercraft ambulances or, you know, some things like that. And it's also going to be a very nice element for the hospital to just recognize it from afar and just reinforce that with some night lights. Yeah, but no spoilers for that one. You will see, you will see. This hospital project is following that master plan that I right now have for the rest of the series. I established the plan before the previous episode, and that's exactly the reason why in the previous episode I built those highways and the highway interchange to just give the city some sort of enclosure past which I'm not going to expand it too much, and I'm just going to have better idea how many episodes there might be left, or just what kind of projects I'm going to build and where. I don't want to disclose it because, you know, it would be like a huge spoilers, but I have it, and this hospital is just strictly following that. So I was pretty sure what I need to build and where I need to build it for today. So that was the situation right now. And when I was making that master plan, I was 100% sure, 100% convinced that I am going to take Asturis all the way to the proper end. I'm just going to build everything I want. I'm going to wrap it up just how I really want it to from the start of the series. And that's going to be that. Then City Skylines 2 happened, of course, which was not really that big of a problem. I was still mostly sure that I would like to finish my City Skylines 1 series. And, you know, it's just going to live together, these two games on the channel, no problem. But then I started releasing the videos from CS1 after CS2 was already out for everyone. And yeah, the popularity of CS1 videos is kind of falling off the cliff. And I suppose I cannot really compare it much with other YouTubers because people are just not doing CS1. So at this point of the hospital project, I was seriously considering just abandoning Asturis altogether and not even finish the hospital project at all. Just abandon it, leave it be right here, right now, and write some sad community post explaining how I cannot justify spending my time on it, and it's just going to be Altengrad and CS2 from now on. After that, I just tried to figure out how to wrap up Asturis because it probably might have been a little premature to just abandon it right now, but maybe it would be better to do some kind of cinematic overviews, at least of the finished places, definitely do some kind of tram rides because this ring line is basically finished. There's just one place that isn't, so I might maybe build that one place, and suddenly I had like 5, 6, 7 more videos of Asturis in front of me, even if I decided to not finish the city, right? So that's actually quite a lot of videos still. Okay, so that was the plan. Yeah, whatever. I can do that, right? So I was building for Altengrad. I was building more for CS2 as well. I did that dam episode. And while I was building it, by the way, when I started building for the dam episode, I was truly seriously thinking that it's just going to be a fun little build. I'm going to have it done in just a couple of hours. I'm going to build some nice looking dams, expand the city, expand the population, and it's just going to be a fun experience. But if you've seen that City Skylines 2 video, at the end of it, I was just not very pleased with the game at all, to say the least. And I'm making this commentary right now. I'm recording this video right now on the 8th of November, so that's just 2 days before it's actually going to go live. It's very late for my usual schedule, and I already made another build for the next City Skylines 2 episode. And the bottom line is that I think I decided I don't want to play City Skylines 2 anymore. Yep. I don't want to talk about it here too much because that's kind of going to be the topic of that next City Skylines 2 video. But yeah, I think I decided. I think I decided that I really want to keep my sanity on some kind of reasonable level. So I'm probably not going to touch CS2, at least not play it really, which means that the decision to wrap up Asturis might have also been kind of premature completely. So at this point, I'm just not exactly sure what to do, because on one hand, the popularity of CS1 is just not there anymore. So I'm not really sure by forcing it if it's just going to, completely destroy this channel or not. Maybe it will, maybe it not. I don't know. But one thing I know for certain is that continuing playing CS2 right now is going to destroy my sanity. And I guess I value that a little more than this channel's health. So, at the end of the day, it's just kind of decision like that. I'm not particularly happy to make the decision one way or the other, but it is what it is. I would like to maybe just continue, following some kind of news about CS2, but right now I just don't want to play it. I just don't want to play it. Does that mean that I'm going to try hard Asturis more? I don't know. I really don't know. I cannot really say anything. I would really like to make that next project that I was kind of already hinting at, because that's just going to allow me to do those first-person rides of Asturis. At this point, that's kind of why I'm building Asturis, because I really enjoy looking at the first-person perspective, especially now that the city center is just filled with so many things, so many new things, so many projects. So that's something that I really want to work my way towards, at the very least. Right, so why am I even talking about all of this? Why is that relevant? Well, it's relevant because that's basically the reason for the length of this video, of today's project, because I thought that I'm just going to build this hospital and that's going to be it. It's just going to be like a standard 30-35 minute Asturis episode, maybe even less than that. And, it's just going to be a fun project, something that I haven't built even in Aurelia back in the day, I believe. And, well, yeah, it's just going to add something to the city. And in some next episode, we are just going to build more and more. So, yeah, that was that. But then I just started building that cathedral plaza as well, and the cathedral as well. I'm going to start building it momentarily here. And I was thinking, yeah, that's kind of like a lot for one building project. Maybe I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I was kind of doing those decisions, whether or not to continue building Asturis or not, so that's where that explanation was relevant. And I finally decided that I'm just going to put it all into a single episode, yeah? So yeah, this is going to be the result. I'm going to be building the hospital, plus the cathedral, plus some high density blocks around this area, plus all the little details and everything, all the night lights, yeah? So this is a just much bigger project than normal, than what's normal for the Asturis series. But the reason for that is exactly that whole, uncertainty around or surrounding this channel's future, really, or, City Skylines 2's future as well, or the future of City Skylines 2's content more precisely, and all of that. All right, so in the end, thanks to CS2, we got this huge Asturis episode. So at least there's that. Obviously, it made my schedule a little worse because now I don't have any buffer videos ready for the future. But I suppose I'm just going to start building a little faster, and it's gonna be absolutely fine. Right. So there we go. That was the lengthy explanation of of kind of like a channel update as well, a little, and why am I just building so many things in this video today. Now let's finally see what I'm building in here, and let's explain how I'm building it. All right, so I just finished placing all of these buildings around this area, and now I'm starting to do some detailing. So I decided that the center point of this place is going to be that tower. At first I was placing in some different places, then I just decided to place it directly in the center, and it's going to be at the center of some kind of a plaza as well. Obviously, this place needs some sort of a plaza, at the very least, some sort of a main entrance to the hospital. Even though the main entrance is maybe not exactly the main entrance, because this place is just so big, it just needs to be accessed from so many different directions. Well, from every direction. So doing some kind of main entrance is probably a little stupid, because it's only going to be main for some people arriving from some places, right? So I am just making so many different entrance points to the entire complex, but I guess that the central plaza is going to be the main entrance for people arriving by public transport, because we already had the tram line going through this area, and well, it had to be there, so why not build some kind of a fancier area around it and not just some kind of a simple stop? So that's exactly where the tower is going to be important. I don't think I'm showing it in the time-lapse, but I was actually paying very close to attention to the first-person view from the tram, so that the tower would just monumentally appear before you as you, for example, exit the tunnel from the main plaza, or as you turn into this area from the outskirts, so that the tower like really needs to be visible. It needs to be just right in your face as you are approaching it with the trams. So yeah, that's the explanation. That's the reasoning behind a lot of the geometry in this area. I was really trying to make the first person experience looking good. So that's also why I did some of the detailing already around the tram tracks. So for example, the trench, some of the retaining walls here and there, because this area is kind of sloped. So by the way, the tram tracks are actually quite sloped. So there obviously needed to be some sort of levels, yeah? The plaza is obviously going to be flat around the tram stop, so around it there needs to be some kind of other levels going up and down. Overall, the hospital is not really built on that many different levels. It's kind of like on 2 levels, maybe 3, if you also count some of the more remote areas around it. So the verticality is definitely not like super crazy here, like in other places of the city, but it's definitely there. I definitely try to reinforce that vertical feel with, for example, this underground entrance there for the ambulances. I'm later going to put those in, and also using all the connector bridges between the buildings, which is also going to reinforce that feel that it's just a huge complex, like one integrated complex for like a single institution, in this case, the hospital. So the buildings that I used here kind of look like hospital buildings, so they definitely do look slightly different from the rest of the city, so you could probably tell that they are hospital, but these kinds of connector bridges between them, they are just screaming that, yep, it's a single complex. It's not really like enclosed with some kind of a fence or park or something. So yeah, I definitely would not blame you if you could not tell like exactly which building is part of the hospital complex. But if it's obviously connected by those bridges, then it must be part of the hospital complex. So that's probably going to be much more clear from the cinematics that I'm going to obviously do at the end. By the way, I prepared extra portion of cinematics, mostly because we are basically doing 2 projects, so there's that. Now, this entire place, this entire hospital complex is also going to be mostly pedestrian only. So I am doing some roads on the outside of the place, but there's only this single road there, just a tiny road, and it's actually a dead end that just kind of goes into the center, but not quite. It just goes on that upper level, so it's mostly out of the way. But the center of the hospital is pedestrian only. It's all gonna be starting or all going to be centered around this tram stop, tram plaza in front of the big tower. So I'm also going to do some kind of it's actually kind of common in hospitals. I have seen that these kinds of paintings on the surfaces to just direct you into like different wings, different parts of the entire complex. So that obviously needs to be pedestrian only. There's actually like another road that goes into that plaza level, but I'm thinking that's only going to be for ambulances, I guess, or some kind of service vehicles like that. Now, it was exactly at this point when I realized, okay, that's the hospital project, but I also need to figure out this plaza next to it, or this block of buildings next to it, because the hospital building, the hospital project it was not even planned. I did not plan to fill all of these blocks going towards the city center. So there will be some kind of unfinished places, but they would be kind of small. I was not sure if that's going to be enough for like a single building episode. And, Asturis' city center just needs to be interconnected. So it's very difficult to do these kinds of unfinished projects on the edges, because I just need to remember how I wanted to finish them before, but it's just really difficult. It's just so much easier to just build, to continue building, and just wrap up the ideas that I had first in mind. So that's exactly why I decided to go for the continuation of this tram track towards the city center and just do something in there, just so I can continue the scenery around the tram tracks. So at first I was thinking I was just going to do some kind of a generic looking sunken tram stop over here, but I was doing this on the streams. I was just randomly browsing buildings like I always do with these projects, and I just came across this USAF, I believe, building, chapel building, and I already used it in Aurelia, so I kind of had some experience with it. I knew how to place it properly and those kinds of things, but it was very small, so I did not really consider it for that place. But what if it wasn't small, right? What if I converted it into procedural objects and made it much bigger? But like much bigger, yeah? Not just like a tiny bit, but like much, much bigger. And just play around with some kind of scaling options, scale it in some different axes, and suddenly, because we had perfectly rectangular block in there, suddenly I was able to fill the entire block with just a single structure like that. And the building is already sunken. It has like a sunken level. It has these really nice looking stairs at the front. And what do you know? It was actually a perfect fit for the start of this area, for the tram tracks. So yeah, just like that, with just a single object, I was able to completely define this area. And from now on, it was crystal clear how this place needs to continue. I'm just going to detail the plaza in front of it. I'm going to obviously rework the stairs going to the chapel, or the cathedral, I guess. It's no longer a tiny chapel anymore, is it? So, because the stairs are now basically twice as large, so I need to put my own there to fit the scale of the rest of the city. Now, what I'm doing in here with these stairs, I'm leaving some of those like double stairs in there, and I'm thinking that those are just basically going to be like sitting areas. It's kind of common, I've seen that in real life in some places, where you just have normal steps, and then you have these steps where it's intended for you to sit on, right? Sometimes they are also with some sort of like wooden cladding on top, so it's actually looking like a bench. Sometimes it's just bare concrete, so that's exactly what I'm trying to go for right here. And since I already had those stairs going from the cathedral down to the plaza, I might as well do something similar, just like in the opposite direction, down towards that sunken level, towards the tram stop. So I used exactly the same stairs in there. I was kind of applying some sort of stairs mathematics to have the stairs roughly similarly sized, so that flow of people, like it would look like the stairs are not like completely oversized for this area. And then the rest of this area I'm just going to fill with that sitting area. So I think that this particular object, that's just some sort of prefabricated stairs that I had. I think they are made by Beard Monkey, and I just applied a custom texture on them so that it would be similar looking as the default stairs of the cathedral. So there would be some continuity in the details, in the visuals. And then I just stretched them and just made them to look somewhat similar to before. Now I'm also going to place them below these original stairs, but then I'm just going to cut it off slightly with a pillar because those upper stairs are just now hanging in the air right now. Oh yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Later I'm also going to add a fence towards the center of both of these stairs on the other side. So don't worry about that. There is going to be some kind of fence there. Right, so yeah, like I said, this project, this place was actually super easy to do because I basically built it using a single structure, right? So now it was just a matter of detailing it around, and that was just very straightforward. I was really happy to put this project together, not gonna lie. So right here, I just needed to do some kind of planters around here. I decided to use some sort of existing geometry. So for example, those angles at the planters, I'm trying to use this like a template wall right there and move all these walls towards it. And that's exactly the same angle as on the stairs going down from the cathedral. So there, like I said, there's some continuity in the geometry. These planters are obviously going to be filled with some just greenery, and it's just going to enclose the plaza. It's going to cut it from the busy part of the city so that these two blocks with the plaza and the cathedral are just going to be something completely different compared to the busy area of the city center. Inside the plaza, there is going to be a pond. I'm just building it using the same concrete walls, even though these ones I'm just making wider with node controller because it's just going to stand out more. And I was still doing this on the stream. I was just given a lot of different geometry ideas. In this particular case, let's just make it kind of like symmetrical or mirrored actually to the stairs shape. So yeah, that works. That's actually looking pretty good. And since I already did a very similar looking pond in Altengrad, I already exactly knew how to do this. So I used the glass texture in there and just a colored asphalt underneath it. Actually, I think that in Altengrad, I did have like a proper transparent water surface, but for some reason, I don't have it enabled for Asturis. And I did not really feel like restarting the game just for that. So I just used glass and it's absolutely fine. Inside of that pond, it was kind of large. I needed to fill it with something. At first I was thinking of some kind of sculpture. I did not really have any fitting, so I just filled it with the crystals because I already used those crystals on the other side of the downtown, kind of, from this direction. So yeah, why not use the same element? It's just some sort of continuity with the details. Then I filled it with some reeds and these palm trees. And I'm just going to align them so that they are like parallel to the stairs towards the cathedral, let's say, because otherwise they would be kind of clipping through each other. This is actually looking rather nice. Now, before this project, I also downloaded a whole bunch of these textures. I believe that they are made by Chameleon. They are intended for some kind of paths, but as you can see, you can just use them for whatever you want. And I also have them as just plain pictures for procedural objects. So I think this is actually going to be the first time I'm going to be using these kinds of textures, and I'm just going to be basically creating the surfaces. I usually just do the surfaces with decals or procedural object decals, or just the decals stretched with prop anarchy, is it? But I don't think I ever did these plazas with just a cube of procedural objects with the custom texture applied. So I chose this particular texture. I actually turned it 45 degrees. I had to make a new picture because of that so that it would be nicely tiled. And I just placed it over here. I decided that I'm going to stretch it over the cube as much as I can in procedural objects because the pattern just shines so much more if it's exactly like this. It's kind of like a weird geometric thing in this area because the pattern doesn't really fit very well with the established geometry of, for example, the planters or the pond. But at the same time, it's just good. It's not the usual tiles that I always do. So at the very least, it's something different. That's always nice. But still, it's nice. It's actually really, really interesting looking. So together with the cathedral, which is also something completely out of the ordinary in the city center, it's just working very well visually. So that was that. That was the most important detail. That was basically the plaza completely done. Now it was all about just wrapping up this area with some details. I really need to pay attention to these details because this is very much going to be visible with those first-person rides. So I want to focus on this quite a lot. I was also paying attention to the ceilings, for example. These particular buildings there I'm placing on the top of the tunnel. Unfortunately, the foundations of the buildings will clip into the tunnel, so I will probably convert them into procedural objects during recording of that first-person ride, or maybe I'm just going to delete those buildings completely and have the tunnel scenery much better because of that. Now, this entire area, the cathedral area, is right next to that main city square, the main circle square, right? And there are so many of those streets in the sky just radiating from that central circle square. So we need to somehow do something with them because, this is the last opportunity, really. I need to make sure that they are going somewhere from that central area, so this is it. At first I was thinking, when I was just starting this area, that I'm going to make them go towards that tram stop, but with the cathedral, obviously, that's completely impossible now. So this path is actually going to bypass this entire new place, and it's just going to go inside of all of these high-density skyscraper blocks, and it's just going to make its way through the buildings, because I can conveniently just say that there might be some elevators or stairs inside the buildings to just change elevation for the pedestrian path. So then I can connect it to some different paths, like in different city blocks that are just not sharing the same elevation, right? You will see that in the cinematics where exactly those paths are now going. And I believe that that might actually be the last time we have seen those green paths in the entire series, because they are pretty much done, yeah. I cannot really think of a place in the city where we have some loose ends, literally. So yeah, I think that those streets in the sky might actually be done. Maybe I could do it a little tiny bit in the next building episode, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure right now. Anyway, back to the hospital. So it was at this point when I realized that I actually need to finish the hospital as well. Actually, I'm kind of skipping between the places in the time lapse. I think that I did this part before I finished the cathedral plaza, but in the time lapse I just reshuffled it so it makes more sense. This was before I decided that I'm just going to put all of this into a single episode, but I guess that the time lapse now makes a lot more sense, so that's fine. So this is the technique that I used before in that plaza. I just used procedural object cube and I just used some of these new tiles. Why not? I'm just going to use this bathroom or swimming pool tile over here, this pattern, because why not? It's just something completely different. It's kind of wild in here, so yeah, let's just do it, let's just do it. And I'm just going to recolor them. I'm just going to put some different colors here and there. And I'm finally going to also do these markers or direction markers. So they are just originating all from that tram stop and just go into these all the buildings, different wings of the hospital. And it's just a detail to that place as well to somehow break the surface. Ideally, I would like to have that swimming pool pattern stretched even more so that the individual tiles would be just so much bigger, but this is actually as much as you can stretch it with procedural objects. There is just a slider that allows you to do these stretchings, and this is as far as it goes. So, it is what it is. Now, that's kind of fine because I can just break the pattern with all kinds of details. So this is not finished, by the way. I'm just going to include some more planters around the area, benches and different kinds of trees in those planters. So there are going to be many more colors eventually, and it's not really going to look that much like a swimming pool anymore. So that's gonna be fine. But at the end of the day, I just want to use some kind of different tiling because there are so many plazas, squares, and all kinds of custom stops, stations in the city where I have some different surfaces. Even in Altengrad, I'm doing some kind of different surfaces. So, I'm kind of tired of using all those same looking tiles over and over again with maybe like slight color variations. This is just something completely different, completely crazy. Let's go for it, right? That was basically my justification for that one. Right, so at this part of the project, I was seriously starting to complete this entire area. So I just needed to go block by block and just wrap up every single detail that I needed to. So for example, over here, I'm just going to create some kind of like elevated park in the inner block, fill it with the usual backyard detailing, with that procedural object building for the hospital, the weird shaped one. I just did something similar with maybe some paths inside, maybe for patients who are, being treated, who can just walk around a little, breathe some fresh air. Well, in the city center, maybe not so much. Well, actually, this is the future, so, maybe there is plenty of fresh air in the city center, who knows. And then just a bunch of trees, a whole bunch of greenery inside of these blocks of buildings, and just overall make the area very, very green. There's also this bigger park, there, you could have seen it a little, which clearly tells you that there's just something different going on. It's kind of a closed-off park. It's not very well connected to the outside world because it's supposed to be only for the patients or visitors to the hospital. So that's kind of clear. It's enclosed by the train tracks and this kind of like a castle-looking structure there on the side, with some kind of towers just dividing that park from the street next to it. As you could have seen, I used real-life ambulance vehicles. That's because I did not really find any futuristic ones. There is one in particular, but it's like an armored car or something. It did not really fit the overall aesthetic of Asturis, and I definitely wanted to go for some kind of like actually ambulance-looking ambulance, right? So I just use these, I believe they are from New Zealand, because they have that greenish yellow color, which was exactly what I needed. It's a huge contrast to those very black-looking roads, and it's just great. It's just adding much-needed color, and it's the ambulance-looking ambulance that I really needed for this place. So I'm really happy with that one eventually. At this part of the project, I was fully convinced that, whatever, I'm just going to show you all of this in a single episode, but in order to do that, I just need to wrap up these couple of blocks between the cathedral and the hospital. So it's not particularly large area, but it really needed to be done right, because it's the vertical transition as well next to the tram tracks. And like I said a billion times before, I really want to pay close attention to how that scenery looks, because it's gonna be visible from the first person perspective. So we are very close to the city center. There's absolutely no point in trying to just figure out something strange in here. No, let's just go for the tried and true method, and that is just fill that with huge buildings, like huge footprint buildings, by combining several different structures together. That's, I just like that, I just like that messy look that some of the blocks in Asturis have, and that's exactly what I need to do right here. The place just requires that. Like I said, there are some vertical differences that I need to overcome. I just need to do some transitions, for example, between this tram plaza in the center of the hospital. I decided that underneath these high-speed train tracks, I'm gonna do a parking lot, because it's just going to nicely fill that place. It's gonna be like a black area there, which is a huge contrast to the buildings. Again, I'm mostly using the parking lots and roads in general in Asturis as like just color fillers, really, because that's exactly why I'm using them this much black, because they're just going to be forming those clear dividing lines between the mostly gray or brighter looking building blocks, and these parking lots around the hospital, they're also somewhat reinforcing the idea that it is a single complex of some kind of institution, because it has these roads just going from it from multiple sides, and there are just so many of these parking lots on the sides, but they're actually not continuing into the complex that much. What was necessary, of course, at the end of every single project that I do lately, we have to do these pedestrian connections. This place would otherwise be completely dead, and we cannot have that. So in this project, it was actually a quite extensive network of pedestrian paths that I had to do. It's not super interconnected. It's mostly just this plaza, then at the cathedral plaza, and some other just cross connections through buildings mostly, because otherwise this plaza, this tram stop as well, would not really be that much used, because there's not much motivation for people to do that. So I really have to cross-connect it through the buildings so that even people who don't actually want to use this hospital, these amenities in here, they can just cut across this block, because there are no streets in here. Like I said, all the roads are just ending by parking lots really on the edges. So all of these pedestrian paths are really needed, really necessary to just provide that walkability through the city center. And people will be using that. Unfortunately, just like with every single project that I do around the city center, it's mostly going to be shine after everything around here is done. And there is just one direction which is completely empty right now. But once that is done, there are going to be huge crowds of people walking around the city. You will actually see that with that ring tram ride video that I'm going to do after all the places around it are finished, that the city center truly is super busy, even at this point, even at those finished places that are completely enclosed. They are really, really busy. So that's actually going to be really difficult to record the first person ride, because there are just going to be so many people jumping in front of the tram, unfortunately. But enough of that. Let's now focus on the night lights. This cathedral obviously needed to literally shine, so I need to make sure that I'm going to do something more interesting to it, more interesting than just slapping some colored lights on it, right? At the same time, I should not really make it look like a circus, right? Because it's some sort of a important structure. It should have some sort of like dignity maybe. So let's not really overdo it with colors. Let's just do it like more decently with this kind of highlight of the outline, which is just looking great, if I can say so myself. And let's just make it glow like a tiny bit. Yeah, not much, but just a little. And let's pick some kind of more toned down color, and that is obviously blue, because I already had it for the stadium, I already have it for some other places, and for the cathedral it's absolutely perfect. I could have done it red, but then again the hospital has kind of like a red theme, I guess, especially thanks to this hospital sign at the top. So there needed to be some different color. Green, maybe, we have green around, so blue it had to be. I'm going to make this hospital sign rotate. That was obviously clear. I had to do that, right? It was just screaming that it should rotate. So here it is. I made it rotate slower, though. In the cinematics, you will see that. Actually, it's kind of going to be the first time I'm going to see it rotate as well in the cinematics, because in real time, that is. Or in the real time of the finished cinematics, because I obviously don't see it in that speed when I'm recording it. Well, anyway, this is the before and after transition. Yeah, that's a huge chunk of the city center, or broader city center, that we have filled, because right now all of these places around that central transportation hub, I can just look in any direction, and except for one little place, well, actually it's not little at all, but we are going to work on it in the next episode. Except for that one place, every single direction around that is finished. And that's exactly what I was aiming for right from the start of this series. I just wanted to have that central transportation hub to be in the center of like a huge high density mess of a city, so that I can just look around it, do the cinematics, do some kind of views around the main hub, and just have the city everywhere you look. So yeah, that's why I'm doing all of this around here. This is the finished cathedral building. Even during the day, it's just iconic because it's huge, obviously. Now that I look at it, maybe I could have made it a different color, even though I'm not really sure if I could. Maybe I could have made it well, either much brighter with procedural objects or much darker, just so it would stand out. But I think it's absolutely fine because just because of the shape, it stands out, and obviously during the night, it's crystal clear that it's right there. This is the center of the hospital area. There are already quite a lot of people using this place, so that is very nice to see. I especially made those pedestrian paths to follow those yellow direction markers, so it's actually looking as if people are using them to just orient themselves around the complex. These are more like hidden areas. So this, for example, the parking lot over here, just a couple of ambulances, some sort of resupply trucks. Hospitals need a lot of resupplying. This is that second tram stop sunken beneath that entrance to the cathedral. It's looking pretty great. I had to do it with that static shot because these kinds of low angles cinematic camera doesn't like those. This is the plaza. It's also used by a lot of people, actually. Even though there could be some more people, this place probably won't be any busier because all the places around it are completely done. So that is the final view of that area. Look at that. These are the night shots. I also added, I'm not really sure if I showed that in the time-lapse, but I also added these spotlights at the top of the hospital tower so that it just shines even more. I guess I could have added some more lights here and there around the hospital. I definitely did not want to add any like ads or something because I did not really feel like doing that. I do have some like hospital-related or healthcare-related companies, I guess, from maybe like Cyberpunk as well. But still, this feels nice just with that hospital, big rotating hospital logo right there. Oh, actually, I did add some more lights to the hospital. Look at that. That dome building there in the park. I added those red lights. It's now looking like a smiley face, actually, like a devilish smiley face or something. I'm thinking that the dome might be some sort of like a theater, maybe, for the hospital, or some kind of cinema, or some kind of community center, cultural center, maybe something like that. But I definitely needed to highlight it during the night as well. So there it is. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this very long Asturis episode. Hope you liked it. If you did, then please, you know the drill. Do all the things below the video, clicking, writing, subscribing, sharing. Huge thanks to all the channel members who are directly supporting me in what I'm doing here. So big thanks again. I really appreciate it. All right, take care. Goodbye.